Names Arnizzare.
Hey guys, Simon Rainier out of Links Arnizzare out of Kamloops, British Columbia. A lot of us are stuck inside right now and without practice time, or maybe we just want to learn something new. So we're going to do some solo practice, some things we can do to either learn for the first time or just improve our game in general. All you'll really need for it is just a little bit of space. I'm in my yard. If you don't have a yard, a living room is acceptable. Beware of light fixtures. I swear I've never broken any. Leastways, not more than twice. And for preference, you'll need some sort of sword-like object. I have a number of options with me today. I have a nylon synthetic longsword, which we use for practice quite often. I have a steel training arming sword or single-handed sword. But if you don't have a sword, I have a piece of dowling. And the other thing is a cane or walking stick. They work great. We all started practicing with sticks for the most part, and by practicing I mean beating up our siblings in the backyard, and so now we can kind of get back to that a little bit as well. We're going to talk about basically one of the principles of how we can sword fight. Things can be divided up into technique and principle. Things can be divided up into guards and movement as well. Don't worry about that right now. So, principles are things we always look for no matter what style we're doing, no matter what we're doing. So no matter what style of swordplay you're interested in, this will help. And what we're really talking about today is lines of force. And with that, I want everyone to stand up, find space, drop your hands to your hip, make for the pistols, and say pew, 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 pew. I don't care who's around, I want you to do this. And the reason why I want you to do this is because you're going to feel bloody ridiculous. If you can find an audience for it, so much the better. I'm just putting it on YouTube. Lots of people are going to see this. I'm immune to the embarrassment at this point. Immune to most embarrassment after how long I've been instructing. The reason for that is when you lie awake at night, you tend to think of the things that are embarrassing, right? If we're embarrassed by it, if it's something silly, we're going to remember it. This is super, super important. This idea of pew, 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 hip pistol. Translation, we are strongest in the direction that our hips are pointing. If you're going to shove something, shove a wall or something, in fact, find a wall and try it. If we are just pushing any which way, there's only a certain amount of force we can get into it. If we really want to shove, our hips align, and there's basically a line of force going from our back foot straight up into the target, into the wall. And that's something we can adapt to swordplay as well. We're going to start with the sword in two hands. Two-handed sword, it can be a long sword, it can be a katana, whatever. Basically anything you can hold with a second hand on it. The reason why we're starting with that is because it's a little bit simpler to understand. We're not going to focus exactly on how to move or what the guard positions are. If you're super curious, there is another video on that. My dog is probably about to go nuts because the squirrel just ran by. Nope, he's oblivious. Cool. Anyway, two-handed sword. Great place to start. The only thing we really need to know is whatever side of the body your sword is on, that's going to be your rear leg. You want your legs roughly shoulder width apart, front toe facing in the direction you're going. Most of the weight, 60% of the weight, is going to be on your front foot. That's basically all you need to know. Simply put the sword up on our shoulder. Again, if you want the exact breakdown of guard positions, I have other videos. Anytime we move, we also are going to step. As we do this, be aware of which directions those hips are facing, right? As we step, check, check, check. We can build that into something a little more fluid. checking out which directions, always double checking. Yeah? Now the reason why we have the sword over our rear leg is because if we have it over our front leg, this throws our body alignment out a little bit. If you're experienced, if you know what you're doing, you can compensate for that, but at the beginning levels, it really is much simpler to just kind of keep it straight, and you don't have to worry about it. With the sword in one hand, with the single-handed sword, arming sword, even with a saber or rapier, you can do the same sort of thing. Same basic idea. The only thing we need to really worry about that's different is getting this backhand out of the way. Aligning our hip pistols, stepping through, cutting. You only really need to be able to move a step or two in either direction. I'm doing it to keep myself in frame. You're doing it so you don't crash into walls if you're stuck inside. So, working on those hip pistols. We can even, if we're feeling so inclined, put the sword away. It's just as effective. When you watch people, when you watch boxers, they tend to have that sort of square as well, that hip pistols in line. Again, talking about lines of force, right? We want our cuts and parries to be strong. With proper hip alignment, I can overpower someone with technique who's using brute strength, unless they also have it, in which case strength is cool. We like strength. Meanwhile, yeah, I think that's all I'm going to leave you with today. Watch those hip pistols. If we're feeling particularly fancy, pick a target in the ground, maybe put a chair there. Work on just kind of stepping around it, keeping those hip pistols pointed towards your target. Cool? Try it out.